And then, yep, there it is. Notifications just went out.
Nice. Awesome.
Okay. Audio okay on your end?
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, guys. Welcome. This is the Digital Prepper, and today we're doing something a little different. We're doing a live stream. I'm here with my special guest, Prepping with Sarge. Pilgrim Radio was gonna be in this live stream as well, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. We'll kind of reconvene with him and go from there. So I'm gonna kind of go over what I do here on the channel, and then afterwards I'm gonna pass it over to Sarge and have him introduce himself. For those of you that are new, I kind of go over mainly how we can utilize technology when prepping, as well as looking at like current news events and other current events regarding technology and how we can prepare either before or after the fact. With that being said, I'm going to pass it over to you, Sarge. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Thanks for having me on. This is actually, I think, the third in the series. I'm sure we'll reschedule when we can get Pilgrim on with us too. It's definitely been a lot of fun. I've got some people here might know me from my channel, which is Prepping with Sarge, and I also am over on Instagram where I am everything _ Sarge. I don't remember why I had to do it that way, but I had to do it that way. Yeah, so I talk about a lot of things in preparedness, such as foraging, gardening, food self-sufficiency. I try to do some focus on financial preparedness, and I do some other stuff like going out into the woods and kind of things like that. Just anything that's like a little bit gives people a little bit more of their own sense of self-sufficiency and independence. That's where I'm at right now with the channel. We'll see how that evolves. Been doing this since I actually started before the pandemic, so I think beginning of 2000. My channel's older than that, but I didn't really upload anything until like beginning of 2000, and then I said I finally got to get on this. Experimented with some different things, and then I finally kind of settled into my prepping videos were doing better than some of my other videos. So around June of 2000 is when I kind of fully committed to doing the prepping stuff. But glad to be here. Always fun when we get together. I wish Pilgrim was here with us tonight. The three of us have a good time. We talked. I know I talked to you throughout the week through Twitter, and I talked to Pilgrim throughout the week through Instagram. So at some point, the three of us will get on the same platform for communication.
Yeah, we've been kind of like rotating between each other's channels. I know since the like you said, this is about the third one because it was my turn. Hey there, Titan Preparedness and Stuart. How's it going, guys? So I guess let's get started into some topics. I guess one of the big ones is the whole Facebook thing that happened this week. Yeah, that was so for anybody who didn't hear about what happened with that, Facebook went down. I want to say, what's today? Friday. I want to say either like Tuesday or Wednesday. And they went down for about like 6 hours after the news of the whistleblower came out. And people think that it had that the two things were correlated. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I mean, either way, people were freaking out just for not being able to get on social media for 6 hours.
Yeah, it was weird. So I'm a therapist, and so I've been talking about this a lot of times with people in the therapy office, and social media addiction is definitely a real thing, and it does appear to be very intentional. It doesn't, that it's addictive. I mean, not the outage, the addiction piece of it. There's a documentary on Netflix that I do encourage everybody to watch called The Social Dilemma. And there's certain stuff that I think is kind of well known in the tech industry and digital digital prepper, you probably have heard some of this stuff before about the blue light spectrum of our electronics, having an effect on our dopamine levels and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I didn't know this, that I knew that Steve Jobs did not allow his kids to have any tech in their bedrooms. According to that documentary, The Social Dilemma, that's pretty widespread throughout Silicon Valley. Like, people who are in the know do not let their children touch social media, and a lot of them do not let them have any tech products in their bedrooms because of the addictive nature of it.
Yeah, I was I know I was reading something like, just recently they were saying that because of the addictive nature of technology, stuff like mental illnesses like depression and such, they've been, at kind of like an all-time high.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I recently just started working with, for years I was only working with adults. Now I've worked with teens and kids in the past, but I'm starting to work with kids and adults again. And I knew this from talking to my colleagues. There's a lot of cyberbullying that's like, I don't know if people know, I'm close to 50. I don't know how old you are, digital prepper, but growing up for me was very, very different than it was for youth that are growing up now. I feel bad for them. I was bullied at different times during my youth, and I'll give full disclosure that unfortunately I at times I bullied other people too, and I'm not proud of that. I've tried to reach out to some of those people and take accountability for that. I can't imagine what it would be like to be a teenager now with social media and like the way that kids are prone to sometimes be mean or humiliate each other, and then to throw that on the internet. Like, it would just be absolutely devastating to me if I was growing up in this generation.
No, I I would kind of agree. I'm almost 30 myself. And it's just funny sometimes that you like for me, growing up, I did have like computers and a little bit of technology, but for the most part, I mean, we were like playing with action figures, playing outside, that kind of thing. And um, uh, the sad thing that I do have to say now is that because I play video games sometimes, and it
Mhm.
just seems like sometimes you don't really have an imagination. You know what I mean? Like, because of all the technology, and you can just kind of do kind of whatever you want with technology. You don't really have an imagination.
And the deficiency from like not going outside, not to say that all young people are not going outside. I certainly know plenty who go out and play in the woods and hike and fish and hunt and do all those things, right? But it's less. I think it's less prevalent than it was for previous generations. And there's a deficiency of fresh air. There's a deficiency of sunlight, and all of that I think has some role in the increase in depression in teens, and in the increase in I don't want to say the S word, because that actually got one of my videos flagged because I was talking about it in a mental health thing. There's
Oh, wow.
certain words YouTube does not like, so I'm not going to. I trust that everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's an increase in that too. It's there, I think with video games, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I game too. And I certainly, we growing up, I had Atari, but even that had like some addictive nature to it. There's
Yeah.
the way they're designed, it's based on, and anyone who's studied social psychology will say, the best way to reinforce behavior, right, positive or negative, is called differential reinforcement of behaviors, right? So in other
Okay.
words, periodically you get a reward. Okay. And you don't know exactly when that's going to happen, right? So when you're playing a video game, let's say an RPG or something, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry about that, guys. That was me.
No, good.
So you're playing a video game, and let's say it's an RPG, and you're going along and you find a new weapon or whatever. Well, you actually get a little dopamine boost from that in the game, right? So your brain feel like, hey, I found this cool new weapon, right? And the games are designed around that, and gambling is designed around that. It's
Right.
you don't know when your next hit of dopamine is coming. Now, if people don't know what dopamine is, it's a neurotransmitter in your brain that makes you feel good. And we have all kinds of different neurotransmitters, but dopamine's a pretty powerful one. It's basically your brain's equivalent of cocaine. And so when you play a video game, you don't know when your next line of of neurotransmitter cocaine is coming in, but you're going to keep playing. And anyone who's been a gamer like me, there's been days where you're like, I'm gonna play one more hour. I'm gonna get to the next level. I'm just gonna play one more, because that's that addictive nature to it.
Yep.
Well,
And then all of a sudden it's 4 a.m.
and I've done it too. Yeah. And social media unfortunately has that, but in a different way. So the coders, now again, I'm not going to get into what I can only speculate. I can't say if this was intentional or not. I suspect it was. But if you're on social media, say it's Facebook or Instagram, and you post a picture and you get likes, that's the same thing. It's that same neurotransmitter hit in the brain, and your brain says, "Ooh, I like this. I want some more." And so you may post another one, right? And so there's, unfortunately, with social media, as we also know, it's very easy for people to be negative, right?
Yep.
So in that Social Dilemma show that I was talking about, that documentary, they actually show like a 13-year-old girl, and she posts a picture of herself, and it's simulated, but it's to give you an idea of how this works. She posts a picture of herself on one of the social medias. She doesn't get any likes. So then she goes into the filters and she starts, adding makeup and, all this other stuff. And then she starts getting so pretty, so beautiful, right? And
right.
Who doesn't like to be told something like that? So, but then of course, inevitably, somebody's going to come along and say, "You're ugly," and there's just a lot to that I'm not saying I love social media. I really do. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I use Instagram a lot. Some of the people here follow me on Instagram, and they know, "Hey, Bucks Nation's good to see you too." But there's some stuff we need to look at, and I think that when these things started, wasn't it like you had to be 13 at least to get on it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Like at least, like for some of like the like more online games, or even like social media too, like Facebook and such. At least for Facebook, I don't think you're really supposed to be on there unless you're either over 18, or if you're under a certain age, you're supposed to have like your parents' permission or something.
Right.
And kind of going back to what you said with the people in Silicon Valley, I actually didn't know that. That's I mean, I don't have kids, but like if I did, I would like to think that I would kind of distance them away from technology as much as possible. But I mean, you can't really do that nowadays because everything is so connected to technology.
Mhm.
It's
And
it's crazy.
yeah. And then that definitely happens, Titan. I saw that on some of your bug out bag stuff, that like everybody comes and they got to run their mouth, right? And
Yeah.
if you notice, a lot of times it's people that either they don't have a channel, or they're using a sock puppet clone, right? They probably do have a channel, but they're not brave enough to come on there and mouth off from their channel. You know what I mean? So like I have backup channels where like sometimes I'll store stuff on there to test it, things like that. I don't know if anybody else does, but you could easily create one that just like, instead of prepping with Sarge, it's just an S. There's no picture of me or anything like that. And most people will never know that that's tied to me. And I could go on there and I could say, "Hey, digital prepper's a jerk," and you'd be like, I didn't do anything to this guy. Why is he doing this?
Yeah, it is it is a little nuts how how easy it is to kind of be anonymous to do all that kind of stuff. Which funny enough, that kind of leads me to my second bit that I wanted to kind of go over. I don't know if you know of Twitch.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a channel on Twitch. I don't use it. I just kind of go and sometimes view other people's stuff.
Okay. Cause like literally 2 days ago, I know that they suffered like a massive data breach. 120 gigs worth of data was like hacked from some person off of 4chan. They said, and they kind of like released that it had like passwords and monetary information from like top streamers. Like how much they got paid and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's my feeling working in healthcare is I have strong feelings about this. If we screw up, right? If the company that I work for screws up and we compromise your data, that's what's called a HIPAA breach,
Hmm.
and that's a big deal. And we can be financially held liable for that.
Hmm.
If your credit card company screws up and gives away your data by mistake, what repercussions is there for them?
Yeah, not really. They just give you a new credit card and move on with their day.
Yeah, and I think that's something that not that I'm for like government handling all problems, but I'd like to see that addressed.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, I've had a information technology job. Uh, oh man, that sucks. That sucks,
Yeah,
Stuart.
I'm so sorry, Stuart. You don't deserve that.
Yeah, not at all. But yeah, like I've worked information technology in a field that required a lot of HIPAA security type stuff, and yeah, they really do not play around with any sort of violations uh, of people's privacy and stuff. So yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, and we have to use it creates problems on our end because we have to use stuff that's like super encrypted. And of course, you probably know digital prepper. The more layers you have to create to protect stuff, the more complicated your system gets, and it causes outages and things like that. So, it's better on a security side. It gets harder to breach it, but it gets harder and harder to use it as well.
Yeah, that and yeah, I would think that since it's a little bit more complicated, and there's still a human touch that has to go on to manage the data and stuff. It's a little more prone to accidents.
Mhm.
Like kind of the same way. Not kind of comparable to like the I forgot the oil um thing that happened a while ago.
Are you talking about the one that's going on in California right now?
No, the Colonial Pipeline. There we go. I don't
Hmm.
know why. But yeah, that when that was breached like, a few months ago, or yeah, a little bit ago. That was crazy cuz that actually that was when, everybody was pouring gasoline into Tupperware containers and such.
Oh man, I remember those. In plastic bags. Yeah.
Yep, it's crazy. Um all right.
And I think that's a wake up call because the next I was just reading an article today. I don't remember who sent it out. I'm subscribed to so many different prepping mailing lists and stuff, but um, fifth fifth generation warfare really is what it is, right? So like first generation warfare. I don't know if anybody's ever heard this before. First generation warfare would be like, how the wars would have been fought during the time of Napoleon. Basically, we're going to line up in columns and people are going to meet on the battlefield, right? Second generation would have been probably around the time of the revolution, where people are going to throw in some interesting maneuvers. We're going to introduce concepts like flanking, and you might even have some snipers and things like that. And then third generation gets into more of that kind of stuff, like using tactics outside of those traditional lining up on a battlefield, and more interesting technologies, things like that.
Mhm.
Fourth generation warfare is what we've been involved in since Vietnam, which is basically guerrilla warfare, right? And so this has been proven to be quite the obstacle for superpowers like the United States, where you can put us into a country and we can do a lot of good and we can probably hold territory. But how do you stop an invisible enemy that comes in, makes a hit, and disappears? Right.
Yeah.
That's That's fourth generation warfare. And now we're on the cusp of fifth generation warfare, which is that shots may not even be fired on the battlefield. They're going to be fired through cyberspace.
Right. And that could, cause a lot of issues. Like, I don't know if you heard about the water incident in, I want to say it was Florida. And that was, like a little bit ago when they hacked the water treatment facility. And, it's just, it's a little scary to kind of think about that kind of fifth generation warfare. And, you just got people in literally other countries that can hit a button on their computer and, take out like a lot of stuff.
Individuals within our own country.
That too. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Your thing about like how cheap it is to get administrative passwords to a nuclear facility. Scary. Yeah.
For anybody kind of new that doesn't really know about that, I did a video on how on kind of like why and how hackers can kind of obtain these passwords from places like the dark web and all that. And I mean they just kind of get it. They can kind of infiltrate like facilities as employees. They can hack the employees themselves as well. And they take the information and they sell it for really cheap. And it's really surprising how cheap you you know you you would think that this information would be like really expensive, and it's not.
Nope. And I've seen some videos. I mean, I've never been on the dark web or the deep web, and I honestly probably couldn't tell you the difference between the two. But I've seen videos of like basically how your information gets auctioned off, and it literally is like an eBay auction.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. I've never been on there. I don't think I want to. I don't need like the FBI showing up at my house knocking on the door or something.
Yeah. So from what I understand, going on there itself is not necessarily illegal, but you could
Right.
accidentally stumble onto something that could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. Speaking of which, kind of thinking about these kind of like privacy issues. Have you heard about Amazon Astro?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the Titans comment down there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's scary.
I don't know how much I like that, man.
I think I'd rather be ignorant.
I could have went all day without knowing that.
Yeah. Astro, yes, sorry. Amazon Astro. So if you all in chat have you all seen this yet? It's this is the I guess it's Amazon's version of like a home robot. It'll be the first generation of home robot. It's almost certainly going to be out before Tesla bot, is what it seems like. I don't. What did you? We talked about it a little bit pre-show. What you want to go first, Digital Prepper?
I mean, so I saw it, and or actually, so the story that kind of happened was that my because me and my wife work from home, and my wife sits right next to me, with all her computer stuff, and she pokes me and she shows me Amazon Astro, and I look at it and I'm like, oh my god, I want it. But then like I look at the price and it's about $1,400, and I'm like, oh no, I do not want that, not at all, not for $1,400. And if you look at like the videos of it, and kind of like the stuff that it does, it honestly doesn't do much at all. The biggest thing that they showed about Astro was a person putting in like a beer bottle and telling it to go find somebody to deliver the beer bottle to it. And so I'm like, really? That's literally all it is. But the big issues come when because Astro has like a face cam and such. Yeah, so Astro's like a little robot with basically a little screen on it. Um and it can it has like facial recognition as well, which that's kind of the thing I want to talk about because that's a huge like privacy issue for it. And I know, like other phones like iPhone and Samsung, they also have that kind of Oh, that is hilarious.
That is coming for sure. That yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a crazy thing, just all by itself. Like, what do you think, Sarge?
So my initial thoughts are, first of all, I am very much pro. I'll give you I'll give you I could go on for a whole show just about this. My, I am pro robot. I'm pro AI. Okay, but there's gonna be problems along the way.
Right.
And this is, this is very, very, like you said, it's very, very rudimentary. It's not going to be able to do too much, but it's first generation, right? So
Right.
you have to think of this as like, the Commodore 64 or the Atari versus, like what's available now for computers and gaming systems, right? So it's
Yep.
huge difference. Um, do I want a helper in the house that I can say, go make me a turkey pot pie? Absolutely. I am 100% for that. Do I want a robot that can help me in the garden or mow my lawn? 100%. Absolutely. I'm all for it. Do I, being that I'm close to 50, I would like to have a helper in the house as I age, right?
Hmm.
And there's going to be certain tasks that are going to get harder and harder, and I get into my 70s and 80s, if I
Yep.
live that long. And so the idea of doing that, as opposed to like having to go into senior living or something like that, I think is fantastic. I'm all for all of that.
Yep.
The other thing that caught my attention on this is going to be like the first generation of like robotic security. They said you can actually program it to respond to motion in your house
Yep.
and go and take video and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
You know.
And I want to say that you can kind of control it as well to
Mhm.
kind of see that. I think they had showed on the video, like you can check out to see if like your stove is on or something like that.
Mhm.
So I kind of thought that was cool.
Mhm.
I honestly, the only thing that kind of prevented me from looking at it further was the fact that it can't go upstairs.
Yeah.
I honestly would have paid $1,400 if it went upstairs.
You would have. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna wait until like the generation 3 or 4 is available that can do more stuff personally, but
That's
um,
fair.
yeah. But now, so those are all the good things. Now here's the bad things. First of all, it's a matter of time. Like once they do, I know the Tesla bot that Elon was saying that it would be able to like cook small meals for you and things like that. So it's a matter of time before one of these things spills hot coffee on somebody, uh, probably a child,
Yeah.
and that's going to be interesting to see how the world responds to that. I think it's a matter of time before one of these things, when it's chopping up vegetables, turns and accidentally slices somebody, right? So all of these things are part of like stuff that's going to happen,
Yeah.
and how are people going to respond to those incidents, right? I think it's also whatever protocols they put in there, like, so those of you in chat, if you've never heard of Isaac Asimov's rules of robotics, right? One of the rules is that a robot must be programmed to never hurt a human being. Well, that's all fine and dandy for the person that programs it, but I mean, people, the first thing when they get a phone, a lot of people will do is like, how do I crack the phone,
Hmm.
right? How do I crack my computer? How do I unlock all this stuff that's been locked by factory settings? So
Yep.
you can be guaranteed that people will be doing that.
Yeah.
There's
To
no
make it do
question,
whatever it is that they want the
including
robot
crime,
to do.
including
Yeah.
crimes. Yeah. And so there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that comes of that, and including violent crime. Like, because think about, if you, let's say that I was an organized criminal, right? And I wanted to go take care of somebody, so to speak. Um, buy a robot with cash, pay somebody to program it to do what I want it to do,
Yeah.
wipe all the fingerprints off that, send it on its little way, right? It's almost the perfect crime. Um, So there will be stuff like that, unfortunately, too. That's down the road. It's not a problem for today or tomorrow, of course.
Right.
But that's stuff that will eventually happen, and we'll have to figure out as humans, like, how do we feel about this?
Yep.
I don't think, just like any other technology, I don't think bad incidents are going to stop us from plotting forward.
Right. And then, like also, the big thing, I know one of the like huge things with artificial intelligence is, just the simple fact of who's creating it, like you were kind of referencing, the like I know that there's like facial recognition software that has been kind of like under fire for being a little bit uh what's the word, like a little kind of racially profiling. But it's all based on who's creating the AI. And if you have like a group of different kind of people creating it, then you're probably going to get different different ideas and different stuff put into the artificial intelligence. Hey, there's Second Star. But it's just, it's a little bit of a slippery slope, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. Yeah, there's going to be some interesting things that happen as this technology continues to get better and better.
Yeah. Speaking of technology, quick question for you. Do you normally carry like or not necessarily carry, but do you have like an emergency flash drive with like different kind of documents and such, kind of put in the wall or under the bed or something like that?
I used to. I actually have a different way of storing some of that stuff now.
Okay.
I do some stuff with cloud storage and things like that, so that I could, in theory, it's not dependent on the thumb drive. I could
Right.
access it anywhere on the planet if I had to.
Well, fair enough.
But it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, because like I know, like I have a couple of like large hard drive, large hard drive stores that actually have like a bunch of information on it. Um, but I mean, what kind of I kind of want to hear more about the cloud based solutions.
So I don't want to get too much into my protocols. You can
No, you yeah, I know.
So one way you can do this without having to get real costly for yourself is you could create certain emails that are only responsible for handling your certain information, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
And so let's say that I wanted to create an email that's just for handling my documents about my vehicle. Okay.
Right.
And when I upload information, you can either I don't
Silverback.
Hey, Silverback Preparedness, you could encrypt it to some extent if you wanted to. You could, if it's just numbers or words on an email, you can come up with your own coding system that only you and your spouse know. Right. So to give an example of that, I may have a system where every time, so I'm looking at my name prepping with Sarge, every time there's an E, change that to an A. You know what I mean? You have basically your own coding system that you and that other person knows. Or you change it to a number or something like that. And that's it's rudimentary. Like, a CIA code breaker can bust through that in a couple hours, but the average person it's going to look like just gibberish too. A more advanced one, and one that I know that code breakers have had a really, really difficult time with managing, is what's called book code. Are you familiar with book code?
I don't think I've heard of that. No.
So if you and I wanted to exchange secret information, right, and we wanted to make sure that we made it very, very difficult for other people to intercept that, I would get you a copy of, say, some very, very large book, let's say like the Bible or Ivanhoe. I wouldn't recommend the Bible because that's too obvious, but something that's like 1,000 or more pages. And so I would send you, now you've got the same edition, right? As me. We both have this. And so I would send you a message with like, it's very, very slow, but let's say I wanted to say, meet me at Starbucks at 2:00. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to find a page that has M, right? So that's going to be page 32, line 4, letter 7, right? So that might be that first letter is 3 numbers, right? Does that make sense? So 32, 4, 7. And you're going to have to go to your book and you're like, oh, that's meat. That's M for meat, right?
Oh.
And so that's called book code. And you can write stuff if 2 people have the exact version of the book, same edition. It's one of the hardest codes for code breakers to break because they don't know what you're working off of. All those see a sequence of numbers.
That is extremely interesting. I'm gonna have to look a little bit more into that. Actually, I kind of wanted to look at because Second Star Survival actually has a good point about us needing technology. And like 90% of humans rely on technology for everything. I do agree with that. I won't say that we need technology for like everything because I mean there's people out in other other states that don't necessarily have like computers or cell phones or anything like that, but it all does depend on like your definition of technology, you know what I mean? Because like you have technology as in like computers and cell phones, you have technology like plows. I mean that's still technically technology. But what do you think about like like a real kind of like SHTF scenario, kind of like Walking Dead type stuff, and having like technology be a part of a, I don't know, like a post survival type scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it exists to make our lives easier in theory. I know sometimes it also makes our lives more complicated and we become more dependent on it. But I certainly would, if it wasn't a situation where technology was completely wiped out, like a super solar storm or something, that we think of more in like books and movies. I absolutely would use, if there's a security issue, you probably have to be careful about your comms, so that stuff's not being intercepted and that kind of thing. But I would use just about anything that was available to me,
Yeah, no, I agree. And then even thinking about like morale, like I think I've said before on either yours or Pilgrim's live streams, even having like a laptop with a whole bunch of like different movies or TV shows or just things like that. I think I do think people give technology a bit of a bad time when there are a lot of benefits to technology, but I mean just like we were talking about before, I think that there's certain aspects of technology that are kind of not good for us, like like social media, for example.
Yeah, that comes with a cost for sure.
Yeah.
The I don't remember whose channel it was on, but there was a discussion. This was going back probably about 8 months ago. And hey, Bacon, I saw you just pop in. The there was
Didn't
a
miss too
discussion
much, by the way.
no, we're just talking about technology, robots, the usual. There was discussion on somebody's channel about like what if an EMP really did knock out like 90% of the average person electronic capability, right? And what if you were that person who had a small Faraday cage, right? And in there you have like just some radios a solar panel that allows you to recharge the radios, some flashlights, and a couple things of night vision. You would basically be like a superhero compared to the rest of the world at that part. Your capabilities,
Yeah.
you know, just a few things like that. Like night vision alone, like if you were the only person in your city block that had night vision, you own the night.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I mean, there's a reason why that's given, our forces so much of an advantage in some of our conflicts. And of course, we left a lot, unfortunately, some of our equipment got left behind now. So we don't have to get into that too much. But yeah, I mean, night vision capabilities alone, just like that's a force multiplier, a huge one.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I kind of want to ask, just because knowing you, and you're kind of in the medical space, I I I I I do kind of want to hear your thoughts, a little bit more about kind of all the social media, um, and kind of like all the technology and stuff, because it's crazy. It's crazy how much kind of technology like owns us in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. It's I mean, I think a good experiment would be, if anybody wants to take this on, again, I'm going to acknowledge that I'm just as addicted to it as everybody else.
Hmm.
If you wanted to take a challenge on, if your work doesn't require it, right? Like, because I know some people have to have your phone available for work, but if your
Right.
work doesn't require it, when you are done with your work day, I dare you to lock up your phone until your workday starts again, and put your laptop away, in a safe or something, or give it to somebody to hold for you. Um, and I'll say, all right, you can have TV, okay, you can have
Hmm.
TV, and you can have radio, but I dare you to give up your phone, your iPads, and your tablets and your laptop, and see how long you can go, because you're gonna feel the withdrawal for sure. And from what I understand from people who've done this, after a
Hmm.
few days, you do feel better. You get past that initial withdrawal, and then you do start to feel better. And people have said, all of a sudden, I realized how much this thing was hijacking my brain. You
Hmm.
know, but that's a tough experiment if somebody wants to try to do it. I can tell you that, like during hurricanes and stuff like that, when we've lost power here for extended periods of time, we minimize how much we use it. Like we'll, just to kind of conserve and I have ways to recharge and stuff like that, but just to try to prolong that, we'll put some limits on ourselves. Like, okay, we're going to log on at 1 o'clock and watch the news, or we're going to log on at 12 o'clock and just check in with family, let everybody know we're okay. But
Hmm.
we'll put some restrictions on it, and that's hard.
Yeah, I agree. How do you feel about like those kind of what do they call them? Like those kind of like retreats that some people do just to kind of like get away from everything and
It's a
get
good
away
idea.
from technology and all that kind of stuff. Like, you think that's a good idea?
I do. I think it's a good idea. I think, ideally, if people could afford it, doing that probably once a month would do a whole lot of good for us. And, force yourself to do something outside, hiking, fishing, whatever, riding a bike, walking with your friend, whatever, forcing yourself to do that. Not everybody can afford to get away with like that.
Yeah.
So how do you adapt it to your daily lifestyle? So one of the things I'm always saying on my Instagram channel is get outside. Whatever you're doing, get outside every day, as much as you can afford to do it. Go, even if it's just 15 minutes, step outside for 15 minutes, walk around, let that sun hit you, feel that fresh air. If you can get away from the city for a little while, even better. The noise of the city is another thing. Like that's just like what's the word? Cacophony?
Cacophony. Yeah.
Cacophony on your brain. Like you're just getting assaulted with all this noises. So that's why I just got back from a camping trip.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, while I was out there, I mean, I just like hearing the birds and the crickets and like the campfires and like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I wasn't completely unplugged either because I was filming for my channel, you know. But even like that amount of it, like I felt a huge difference in my blood pressure dropping and like, you know, just overall. And as soon as I got home, I still felt good for a while, but I automatically, you start to notice the differences in your body. You know, you start, things make you tense up and stuff. And so it's huge. I've got one adult stepdaughter, so she's an adult, so I'm not going to tell her what to do.
Mhm.
If I had kids, I would really, really try to restrict their access to social media until 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And I know people aren't going to do that because nobody wants to be that parent who won't let their kid do it when every other kid in class is doing it. You know,
No, I
everybody wants
agree.
everybody wants to be the fun parent. Everybody wants to be the friend to their kid.
Right.
Um, and nobody wants their kid to get picked on, which I totally get that.
Yep.
I absolutely get that. But that's my honest answer. You asked my thoughts on it from a mental health perspective, and that's my honest answer.
I 100% agree. Like even because I'm also looking at the chat too. Titan Preparedness had even was mentioning the phantom buzz like in
Mm.
your pocket. That's one of the main reasons why I used to have a smartwatch, and I had to get rid of it, and I swapped over to a nice non smartwatch, just because the buzzing was almost like incessant in a way. Like anything my phone got a notification on, it automatically ringed on my watch. I got like text messages on the watch and phone calls, all kind of stuff. And sometimes I wouldn't even like the watch wouldn't even had vibrated, but I could still like feel phantom vibrations like in my wrist and in my pocket, and it was kind of crazy, and so I I had to give that up, and I feel a lot less stressed now.
Hmm. Interesting. So you don't use a smartwatch though, right? You use the
Not anymore, no.
okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think Stuart's comment there is interesting. I would love to know what the earth sounded like. You know? Yeah, imagine what the sky looked like before electricity, you know,
Actually, yeah, you're not wrong.
because of
um
all that light pollution.
right. Actually, Stuart, funny enough, that you mentioned drones. I'm actually thinking about doing a little video about drones and how they could be, a little useful in prepping. I'm not 100% sure because I do own drones. I have one drone currently. I mean, it's pretty fun to fly it around and have that kind of like uh surveillance
Mhm.
in a way. And I know you could use it, like for surveillance and that kind of stuff. I took like a nice little picture above my house, all that kind of stuff. Um, I mean, drones aren't bad, but I would agree that like the company itself, like DJI, they do mine a lot of data from you.
Yeah, and that's probably the most common brand too, right? DJI.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
DJI is the more popular brand of drones. Other drones, like you can buy a cheap like $30 drone off Amazon. That's not gonna, it's not gonna mine any data or anything. You just plug it in and fly it.
Mhm.
But I know DJI, they actually, because you got to like make an account. They log your flights, all kind of crazy stuff. But
Yeah,
like I've said, oh, I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like I've said on some of my videos, um, privacy today, funny enough, is it's all dependent on how you think of your own privacy. Because like you have some people that are like, oh well, I have to live with it. I use my Google account. They're gonna mine my data. They're gonna send me advertisements to whatever it is that I'm talking about. They're gonna be listening to me. It's just something that we kind of have to live with. For other people, they don't want that. And they won't own a cell phone or anything like that.
Yeah, it's I think probably like 80% of Americans, I don't know about like other countries, 80% of Americans, when you tell them stuff like that, they just like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention the particular social media, but there's one that people keep trying to get me to go on, and it has really horrible security and privacy protocols. And so I explained that to them that no, I'm not going to do that until that improves.
Yeah.
And then I explained to them, you do realize that because you're using that, your image is probably on somebody else's passport at this point.
Yeah.
And they just go, all right. Okay. And I mean, of course that could happen to me too. I mean, I'm all over social media too. So, but back to the drones thing though, for a second though, like think about what we were talking about before. If there's a blackout and you've got a couple drones that were in a Faraday cage and you've got the ability to recharge them with like solar panels and things like that.
Yep.
Again, like you own that area. You're the superior force in that area.
Yep. And I've actually like just me flying the drone out there. A lot of people, they'll mention the noise that it makes. And look, I'll tell you right now, 300 feet in the air, you're not hearing a drone like at all. You might see it if you look up, but a lot of people, they're not going to look up if they're not expecting to see a drone. But you're definitely not hearing it.
Interesting.
I'll tell you that right now.
Interesting. Do they have night vision capabilities with it? Can you do stuff with that?
The one that I have is the Mavic Mini. That one, I mean, you don't really like fly it at night. I mean, you can. No, it doesn't have any it doesn't have any like night vision capabilities. But I know some drones might have some. I'm not 100% sure though. I'd have to do a little bit of research.
You're probably talking about those stuff that civilians usually can get access to for night vision generation 1 and 2. There's limited range on that anyways.
Yeah.
So you run into some, you probably could rig something to do that, but unless you got access to the more expensive like Gen 3 stuff, your clarity above 100. I don't know because I'm not military. But I'm just going to guess clarity above 100 yards or something like that. It's going to probably,
Yeah, right. Yeah. That and I think one of like the bigger issues is like especially with DJI drones, they do like to restrict you from doing certain stuff like within the because it has like an app that you have to plug into the remote control and all that kind of stuff, and it'll restrict you from doing a lot of stuff. Like if you're in a restricted area, it won't let you fly the drone unless you go through like a bunch of steps to unlock it. Now, obviously there's ways to what do you call it? Like crack the drone and allow you to do whatever you want.
But now you're breaking the law too.
Yeah, but now you're kind of like breaking the law too and all that.
Right. Yeah, and it's an issue in my area because I live pretty close to an Air Force base and an international airport. So the amount the amount that I'd actually be able to use it is probably pretty questionable. Unless I take it out into the woods with me when I do that, which that could be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would recommend flying drones, especially now because it's a lot easier for people to kind of get into it. The drones, they're since they have like all the GPS and all that kind of stuff, they're really easy to fly. I mean, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I've thought about it. If I got one, I'd probably want something that's like small and that I could put into a backpack and that kind of thing. Right, Bacon? Yeah, that would be fun, especially like after hurricanes. I've talked about it with my spouse about like after hurricanes to be able to just kind of check the neighborhood and stuff like that because they're legit. when after a hurricane, there's serious operational security issues, because so many people will evacuate that you actually will have people looking for free stuff, if you get my meaning.
Yep.
Like literally like going around to areas and stuff like that. So when that's going on, we communicate with those that in our neighborhood that we have good communications with, and kind of let them know, hey, I'm going to be up, till 4 a.m. Can you cover from 4 a.m. to because unfortunately there's bad actors out there, and the police are very, very, very busy after a disaster like that.
I would expect so. All right. I I think we can kind of wrap up for today. What do you think?
Yeah. Did you guys, those of you who are in chat, any questions or comments you guys want to add in there?
Meanwhile, while we're waiting for that, did you have anything that you wanted to plug, Sarge?
No, I've got I filmed so much footage while I was out camping that I really think that I'm gonna have like months of stuff trickling out.
Nice.
But it was great. I mean, I just had such a blast out there, and did some hiking. I did some, campfire cooking, and unfortunately, time flies so fast too. Like before I knew it, it was time to pack up and start heading home. But it was a good reminder that I think I need to. I'm gonna try to do it at least twice a year now, and see, because I did feel so much better just kind of getting away from everything. And although I was using my phone to film, that's about all I was doing. As soon as I had enough footage, I was like loading it up to the cloud so I could play with it later on. A couple times I texted my wife and I said, like, hey, I'm on this trail, just so somebody, and you should do that so somebody always knows where you are. Because that's how a lot of hikers get into trouble. They'll go out on a trail and then they don't tell anyone where they are, and then if they fall or whatever,
Oh geez.
nobody knows where to look. I did joke around that Brian Laundrie, my personal feeling is that he's somewhere on the Appalachian Trail. So and I based that on when he was being interviewed by the police in the body cam footage. If you watch that whole thing, and you guys, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Brian Laundrie is the one that the FBI are hunting right now for. He's missing because his girlfriend's dead. It seems likely that he was the murderer. Not, of course, guilty until proven innocent. But it doesn't look good when you disappear after this happens.
Yeah.
And he, in the body cam footage, as the police were taking him to a hotel, he was talking to the officer about how much he loved the Appalachian Trail. So that's my guess. There's no way he's in that swamp that the family keeps trying to say he's in the swamp. It's too. I actually, what I should do is, because I have a lot of swamps near us, I should go out there and film some footage and be just like, show people like, you cannot live here. It's not, it's not habitable. Dave Canterbury, who's probably one of the best outdoor survival people in the world, he would have a hard time living there.
I would agree. It's not fun.
But yeah, I think everybody was kind of on the trails, was kind of like keeping their eye out, like, seeing if they could spot him, because there's a pretty nice reward on him too.
Oh man.
And her family and she deserve justice. So I do hope that somebody, a hiker or a hunter or FBI or somebody, finds him, because that family deserves justice.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Looking at the chat, I don't think I see a lot of like questions. I have
6 months without power. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's impressive. Yeah. And 3 months without water. Wow.
Yeah, Mosaic. Now I can understand, because I've seen you on, like some of my videos, and you seem like you got a lot of stuff pretty situated.
I'm gonna have to check out your channel, Mosaic.
Yeah, his stuff's pretty good. But okay. Yeah, it was great having you, Sarge. It was great having everybody here. I think this turned out really well. This was good. Good stream.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you everybody from chat. Good conversations there. Hey Sarge, good to see you.
Free burgers and beer.
You'll have to talk to Digital Prepper about that one.
I'll send it to you via email.
Not Venmo though, because Venmo is now being tracked.
Oh no. But all right, guys. Thanks for joining in. Hopefully we do another one next time. Next time, hopefully Pilgrim can also be here. But yeah, I mean this was great. I appreciate you guys. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and whoever doesn't know Prepping with Sarge's channel, please go ahead, go over to his channel and watch, like, and subscribe. Yeah, and that's about it. Stay safe and stay prepared, guys.
Have a good weekend, everybody.